problem is I'm not sure what that was. But, but, did I think I messed this up. TikTok ideas. So the problem that I have is I've kind of run out of stuff to do, which is kind of crazy to think about. Because, and what I mean run out of stuff to do is when you start automating stuff, you automate everything. And then when you automate everything, you realize that you can get so much stuff off your plate. And the more stuff you get off your plate, the more you automate, the less that you actually have to do. And then you start looking for more stuff, which is, good and bad. Let us let's refresh this. So what we're gonna do today is we're just gonna chat. I think the easiest thing to do is to simply answer questions. Now there's things that I can talk about, there's things that I can discuss, but for the most part, the whole purpose of a live is to make sure that you are getting your questions answered, because it's not really important for me to tell you what I think is important. I think it's more important for you to have questions, pointed questions, specific questions, and get them answered. Um, and mostly, for the most part, I talk about starting an online business. I talk about um, I talk about creating and selling digital products. I talk about things that will actually help you. I talk about monetizing your content without using the platforms, because the platforms, they don't give a shit about you. The platforms don't care if you make $1. The platforms don't care if you make $1,000. I'm sure you've seen a lot of people complaining about the lack of money, the lack of funds that the platforms had started paying out recently. It's because they have no obligation to pay you. They have no incentive to pay you, and so that's why they can play these little games. What I encourage people to do is I encourage people to build their own monetization, build your own source of income, your own revenue stream. And when you build your own revenue stream, you don't care. First, you don't care about going viral. And second, more importantly, you don't care about getting paid by the platforms. When you're relying on TikTok Shop or the TikTok Creativity Program, you are beholden to a third party. You're beholden to someone else, and you're relying on someone else to build your business. And that's a problem. What you should be doing is you should be trying to take as much control as possible. And the best way to take control, the best way to take control is to have your own systems. All right, good. I am live. I want to make sure I was live. Yeah, the best way to take control is to have your own systems. And what I think is really important for people to understand is you start very specific by building something specific for your audience, and then you can narrow or you can grow from there. That's the key. You want to be successful? Find one problem. It can be very small. Find one problem. Look at the problems that you've solved for yourself, and then create a solution. The solution should be essentially whatever helped you get over the problem that you had. It's the simplest way to get started. It's the easiest way to get started. You don't have to be an expert, but the reason why I like finding problems that you've solved for yourself is you don't have to you don't have to force it. You don't have to try it. Like a lot of people will get into a niche that they don't know anything about because they heard it was a good niche or they heard there's a lot of money in it. But if you try and get into a niche that you don't know anything about and you start just creating bad content, you start faking it till you make it. But if you get into a niche where you have lots of knowledge, skills, and experience, you can speak to those knowledge, skills, and experience, and you can speak coherently, and you can speak confidently. And coming up with content ideas isn't impossible. Wow, my defense is terrible. Coming up with unlimited content ideas is um, is not impossible. But when you're trying to get into a niche or an area where you don't know anything about it, you start just regurgitating what other people see and hear. Like there was a huge, I don't know if it was a year ago, but there were a bunch of people out there that were teaching other people how to make money online. And the only way they knew how to make money online was by a course that they'd bought that taught people how to sell the course. And so when potential customers started asking real questions, they couldn't answer them, and they look like frauds. They look like phonies and fakes. And so that's a problem. So the first thing you want to do is just look at the problems that you solve for yourself. Because chances are, if you solve the problem for yourself, you can solve that same problem for millions, not million, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Bruise shoulder. And that's where success comes in. Identifying a specific group of people that need your help. You find one problem, you create one solution, and then what you would do is you create content to attract people to you. That's how you get started. That's is like, and I say this all the time, it is simple, it's not easy, right? It's really simple to do. It's not easy to implement. And it's not easy to implement because it takes consistency and persistence. It takes learning skills. It takes failing. It takes failing a lot. And most people can't handle that failure, at least not over the long term, because we've been conditioned to expect things to happen instantly. And if it doesn't happen instantly, it means it's not going to work. But when you're getting started with like content creation, you're learning a skill, you are developing a skill, you're building skills, and then you're implementing skills. And when you're doing that, you've got to give yourself some grace, or you're not going to be successful, right? But anyway, so let's talk about problems that you can that you can solve. I'll give you a few examples. If you have questions, comment down below, and I'll give you some examples. List problems that you've solved for yourself. For example, and when I say problems are both good and bad. For example, getting married is a problem, but it's a good problem, right? Getting engaged is a problem because there's a bunch of steps involved, and most likely the person that's gotten engaged is getting married for the first time. And so there's a bunch of stuff that they don't know. Having kids is a problem. When perfect example, our first kids were twins, and trying to navigate twins is a problem. If you've never had kids before, managing things like bedtime schedules and feeding and changing diapers and daycare, all of that stuff are problems that you can solve. If you solve them for yourself, you can now solve them for other people. Other problems include finding a new job, resume building. Hell, interviewing is a problem. There's a huge niche over on YouTube simply teaching people how to, I feel like this is different, how to interview for different job types, software developer and computer programmer and all sorts of stuff. That's a huge niche because that's a huge problem. People want to, they want to make more money, right? They want to find a better job. But all of these are considered problems that you can solve for other people if you solve them for yourself. And the other thing too is, it can the problem that you're solving can include free software. For example, Canva is a huge platform that a lot of people use. If you are really good in Canva, if you're an expert in Canva, you could teach people how to use Canva and then create a paid thing on the back end. You see it all the time on YouTube. For example, people will want to learn how to make birthday cards. And so what you could do is you walk people through the steps of creating a birthday card, and then say, hey, look, if you want to just use the template that I built out, go ahead and click the first link in the description. Right? So step number one, very, very simple. Another problem is doing household chores. At what age did you learn how to wash clothes or do the dishes? All problems that you can solve. Back in the day, back in my day, I used to have a blog. It was called smallhomeappliance.com. One of my most popular blog posts was a blog talking about can you put aluminum foil in a microwave? At what age did you learn that you could not put aluminum foil in a microwave? There's people coming of age every single day that don't know you can't do that. And so that's a problem you can solve for other people. So there are literally millions of problems out there, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to try and find some new, undiscovered, untapped, secret, hidden problem. Any problem will work. Every problem will work. Hell, getting to work, driving to work. Not too far from me is Chicago. And with Chicago, traffic is a pain in the ass. So you can teach people how to navigate the train system. All problems. Anyway, what the hell is that? Oh, what was that? That was weird. Traveling, helping people travel, problem. And then helping parents travel, helping people with pets travel. And then even within traveling, there's a bunch of different subtopics that you could potentially get into. Cruise travel is different than traveling overseas, staying at an all-inclusive resort, adults only resorts. There's so many different opportunities out there. Just simply talking about your experience, things that you have already solved for yourself. So that's step number one. Look at the problems that you've solved for yourself. Now go out there and develop a solution. Develop a digital product, a small and specific digital product that's going to serve as a solution for your audience. And the way you do that really is you simply use free software. Use Canva, use Google Docs. If you've got a subscription to Affinity Photo, another example of a problem is photo editing, video editing. You could create LUTs or Lightroom presets or motion graphics, because there's people out there that want to add motion graphics or text on the screen on their YouTube videos, but they don't know how to do it, or they don't want to spend the time to learn how to do it. And so they're going to go out there and look for different solutions. If you know how to do it, if you've spent time doing it, man, if you spent time doing it, you can now solve that problem for other people. Anyway, step number one, identify a problem that you solve for yourself. Step two is to, like I mentioned, create the solution. And ideally, I want you to create the solution for free. Don't go out there and spend a bunch of money, at least in the very beginning. Use Canva, use Affinity Photo, um, use Google Docs, use like if you're proficient in Microsoft, oh boy. If you're proficient in Microsoft Excel, use Microsoft Excel, but don't go out there and spend money yet. You want to reinvest your money. So anytime you make a dollar, you can put the dollar back in, and then that's how your dollar goes from 1 to 2. Anyway, we are not doing very good. And what's really and you might be saying, okay, well, there's a bunch of people out there that are already doing the same thing. But the best way to sell your digital product is through your content. We build trust, we build credibility through our content. If look up something called parasocial relationship. We build those relationships by providing valuable information through our content that builds a know, like, and trust factor. So if you're concerned that everybody already has a fitness planner out there, your what people will do is they're going to buy your fitness planner because they know, like, and trust you. They resonate with you. If you're concerned that everyone's got a wedding budget calculator, people are going to buy yours because they resonate with you. And the best way for them to resonate with you is through your content. You create content where you are identifying their pain points, goals, dreams, desires, and things that they're thinking but afraid to say out loud. And they'll buy from you, which is really, really cool. So when you're creating content, and this is why I think it's really important to have a specific group of people you want to help, because because you want to identify their problems, their pain points, their goals, their dreams. Because when you start speaking their language, you use the terminology and the phrases that they use, they say, man, this guy really gets me. If you've ever been watching a video, yeah, it's usually easier with a video. If you ever watched a video and said to yourself, it feels like this guy is in my head. It feels like this guy is saying exactly what I've been thinking for the last 2 weeks. That's because they're probably a pretty good marketer. But more importantly, they understand the pain points. And you feel like if they understand my pain, they will have a solution. And that's where the power comes in. That's where the success comes in. That's how you get them to buy, through your content. And I'll give you a few examples. So if I were just getting started today, I would probably get into helping men in their 40s lose 20 pounds or more, we'll say. Because in the last year, I've lost close to 80 pounds. And so what I would do is I would start talking to them in the way that they understand. I would use terminology, I would use phrases, I would say things like, if you are struggling to walk up the stairs, then, you need to do this. Or, if you're afraid that you won't make it to your daughter's graduation, or if you're afraid that you won't be able to walk your daughter down the aisle, here are 3 things that you can do. That's a concern that someone in their 40s might have. If you could say, if your family has a history of health conditions and you are in your 40s, you're probably getting close to those problems too. Here are 3 things that you could do to make sure that you don't have those same issues that your parents had. Again, those are, hey, what's up? Is it Tierra? But that's how you build a connection. You use the words, phrases, and terminology. And the terminology that you're using does 2 things. It pulls in people that are like you, that are within your niche, that are your demographic, but it also pushes people away. And that's a good marketing, a good marketing. I don't want to say ploy, but a good marketing. I'm good. How are you? Good marketing pulls people in and pushes people away. People that they don't want they'll push away. And so, if I'm talking to 40-year-olds, that means I'm not talking to 20-year-olds, because 20-year-olds and 40-year-olds usually have different needs. 40-year-olds most likely are deep in their career. They probably have kids. They're established. They might have a spouse or a significant other, and their metabolism is different. All good chilling with snack and hanging around here. Cool. Happy to have you. And so that's really important to understand. You want to pull people in as well as push people away. And the best way to do that is to show that you understand their needs, their challenges, and do it consistently. You can use AI to help you out with that, but I don't recommend using AI in the very beginning. Use AI to supplement what you already know, and don't use it as because too many people use it as a crutch. Too many people will use AI to get into a niche that they don't really know anything about. They heard that there was a bunch of money in this niche, X niche, right? And so they're going to get into AI. They're going to go to AI, ChatGPT, and they're going to say, "Hey, this is my niche. Tell me how to make money, or tell me what to say." What's your favorite MLB team? So my favorite MLB team is the Chicago White Sox. My favorite player from the White Sox is Frank Thomas. He's been retired for a few years now. So yeah. And the content is the simple part. A lot of people get burnt out when creating content because they're chasing views. But when you're creating content to attract people to you, you don't chase views. Say thanks for the follow. You create content to identify your audience, and you don't have to chase the views. That's why, and the other thing too, which is really important, I don't think it's talked about enough, is when you start making, I didn't want to do that. When you start making content to solve a problem for people, your content is now evergreen. It lasts forever. Instead, when you're trying to make content to go viral, you got to constantly get on the content hamster wheel. And, you're always checking your analytics. If the video doesn't immediately pop off, you're like, oh, now I got to create another video and another video and another video. When you create content targeting a specific group of people, talking to a very specific group of people, your content can work for you for years. Your content is valuable. Thanks for the follow. Because there's always going to be somebody coming to the age that you're talking to, that is running to that issue. Every day there's a new 40-year-old man that realizes that they need to drop some weight, or else they're gonna struggle the second half of their life. There's always going to be somebody getting married, right? And so what games do you play other than this? So this is college football. I play MLB The Show, and I play it's a shooting game called The Division. And so that's why you want to create content that is quote unquote evergreen. You create evergreen content, it's valuable forever. And a really simple example of this was just a few months ago. And this happens like every month on TikTok. The TikTok app stopped working. The servers were down, or whatever excuse they came up with. But when the servers were down, you couldn't upload any new videos. The new videos weren't getting any likes. And if you're relying on the TikTok shop, you're relying on trying to go viral, and your new videos aren't getting any likes, it's a waste of time and money, right? And energy. But if you create content that is evergreen, that's relevant for forever, you can still. Do you play 25? Did I play 25? Yeah, I did. what was I saying? Oh, when you create content that's talking to a specific group of people and you no longer worry about going viral, you the old content still works. The old content still generates views. And that's what's most important. Making sure that every piece of content that you upload, how long have you been streaming in general? You're right about Evergreen. Yeah. Every piece of content now has a purpose. But like there's a lot of people out there. Now, you know, a really simple example is a lot of people created content about State of the Union, right? State of the Union was last night. And they got to keep making the content, even if they don't want to talk about it anymore. And that's where burnout happens. I don't know how long I stream on and off. I have a YouTube channel that is more of my base of operations. But so think about how many think pieces you've seen about the State of the Union, right? Everybody's talking about it. But tomorrow there's going to be a new hot topic. And now you got to wake up, you got to see what the hot topic is, you got to quickly have an opinion. Even if you don't have an opinion, you got to have an opinion, and now you got to make a piece of content or 5 about it. Because if the first one doesn't go viral, you got to oh man. If the first one doesn't go viral, now you got to make 4 more to try and get in the algorithm, or you're trying to piece it together. Stream quality looks clean. Good job. Thank you. Yeah, I've had this webcam for a long time. I've had this webcam for probably like 7 years, 8 years. But that's the thing when it comes to content. Like content creation is going to be your foundation. It's going to be what keeps you in the game. And unfortunately, it's going to be what puts you out of the game, because a lot of people get burnt out. And the reason why they get burnt out, or they got to take a break, whatever they want to tell you, is because they've got to keep making viral videos, even about stuff they don't care about. Or they get burnt out because they were relying so much on getting paid by the platform that when the views dip, or when the payments dip, they make more content and they don't know what to do, because they've created a lifestyle for themselves, and now they're feeling the pressure because these platforms all behave the same. These platforms all start out paying everybody very good, and then the reason why they start paying everyone very good is because they're trying to get I'm good, you don't have to share it, because they're trying to get more eyeballs, they're trying to get more creators, they're trying to get more viewers, because if they get more viewers, they can get more advertisers, they can get more investors. And so in order to do this, in the very beginning, they make everybody viral. Everybody goes viral, right? When we saw it with TikTok, you could sneeze into your hand and automatically go viral. And that attracted more people to the platform because of the lure of becoming an influencer. And over time, what happened was people realized that, there's a bunch of people creating content and my views are decreasing. And so they introduced monetization. They introduced monetization in an effort to bring people back, to get people to create content. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about the advertisers and the investors. And so now I think TikTok's getting to a point, or has gotten to a point, where there is plenty of content creators, and they are reducing the RPMs, because they've got so many people that are trying to go viral and get views and become an influencer, that they don't have to pay anymore. And a lot of people have been negatively impacted by that. Also too, in general, you don't want to be an influencer. The last thing that you want to be is an influencer. I know that I know that everyone talks about how to become an influencer, but the last thing that you want to be is an influencer. And the reason is really simple. There's a few reasons why, but one of the most important reasons why you don't want to be an influencer is because you have no control. You got to make a bunch of videos about stuff that you don't necessarily care about. Some of the reasons why we talk, like your money is 100% reliant on going viral. But more importantly, if you're an influencer, people are preying on your downfall. There'll be people that build you up and in hopes to see you fall. Instead of being an influencer, be a problem solver. Because as I mentioned earlier, solving problems lives forever. There's somebody turning 40 right now that realizes that they need to lose weight. And you could be a problem solver to help that person lose the weight. Don't be an influencer. There's somebody right now that is hating on every single influencer for a number of reasons. They don't like their content. They maybe have an opinion that is not aligned with what they wanted. And so, be a problem solver. That way you can create 3 videos a day, 5 videos a day, whatever you want. And you're not worried about getting as many views as you need. But yeah, starting today, if I were just getting started, my number one goal would be to be a problem solver and not an influencer. Because influencers have a short shelf life. Think about the Kardashians. The Kardashians are an influencer, and the pendulum for influencing swings back and forth. I haven't heard the Kardashians doing anything in a while. Now I'm not looking for them. I'm not checking for them, but there was a point where, they were everywhere. Now they're kind of fading away because it's not. It's in vogue. It's not something that people are interested or looking for. Now, there'll be a time, I would say maybe a couple of years, where influencers are going to be popular again. Oh, that's intercepted. Influencers are going to be popular again. But if you solve problems, you don't have to worry about popularity. You just make sure that you are identifying the problems that your audience has and making sure that you are creating helpful content to solve the problems for them. Right? And that's the difference. The other thing too, and I always want to make sure I touch on this, is I am not a big fan of brand deals and sponsorships. If you don't know, brand deals and sponsorships, essentially what you're doing is you are working with a company, usually a mid to large company, and they're going to pay you for a series of videos. And I'm not a fan of brand deals and sponsorships for a few reasons. One, brands are piggybacking off of your following to make money. Each brand has what they call a lifetime customer value. There's a dollar amount that they envision each one of their customers are going to make. A brand will say, hey, I'm going to pay you $500 for 5 videos. So $100 a video. That seems like it's great on the surface, but the company actually gets access to what's most important. And what's most important is the data. They get access to the name, the email, and how much the customer spent. And so let's say, for example, Revlon. Let's say you do a brand deal with Revlon, and they have a lifetime customer value of $500 per customer. And so they come to you and they say, hey, we want to do a brand deal. We'll pay you $500 for 5 videos. First of all, they already understand that if they can get 2 people to sign up, they've already made their money back. Step number 1. But number 2, and more importantly, they get access to the customer's name and email, and you don't get access to that information. What you should do instead is you should be selling your own products and services so that you can get access to your own, your customer's information. That's what's most important, so that you can have a lifetime value of $500 per customer. That's the key. That's the trick, right? The brands that you partner with are piggybacking off of your hard work, and they're sharing with you a fraction of what they're making on the back end. I also say this too a lot, and I want to make sure I illustrate this again. Most people think about business wrong. Most people think about, uh, how can you score so many points? I'm playing on easy mode. I'm 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 playing on rookie or whatever it is, and it's 6-minute quarters. Um, I basically really I play for the recruiting aspect of it. Uh, I'm not gonna lie to you and lead you to believe that I'm any good at this game. I certainly don't play online or anything like that. I just play because I like the game and I like the recruiting aspect of it. Um, but 79 is a lot. I didn't realize I scored 79 points. What was I saying? Awesome, bro. Follow the content creator. Thanks for following. Damn, what was I saying? Oh, you want to be a data company. And the reason why you want to be a data company is so all of these companies out here, and this is really important to understand, all the companies out here are data companies. TikTok's a data company, Spotify, Apple, all of these places are data companies. Now, what they do with the data, how they monetize the data is differently. And I want you to start thinking of yourself, if you're a content creator, think of yourself as a data company. Think of yourself as someone that collects data. And the most important data that you want to collect are names and emails, and also lifetime customer value. But in the very beginning, you want to collect names and emails because that's the only online asset, digital asset that you can take with you. If TikTok shut down tomorrow, if TikTok closed your account tomorrow, you have no recourse. But if you're collecting names and emails and you're building a mailing list, an emailing list, you can take your data to other platforms. Or let's say you started on TikTok and you built a nice following and you've got 1,000 people on your mailing list. And then you said, hey, look, you know what? I want to start creating long form YouTube videos. You can send an email out to your followers and say, I'm now on YouTube. Come check me out here. That's what's most important, the data. But every company out there, Amazon, your grocery store, I keep shocking myself. The grocery store, these are all data companies. But what they do with the data is different. How they monetize the data is different. So I want you to start thinking strategically like that. If you start thinking like that, you'll make hopefully better decisions. Ooh, picked off. You'll make better decisions, and hopefully you'll be able to make more money. The other reason why you want to stay away from brand deals and sponsorships and getting paid by the platform and all that stuff is, I think I've said this before, but they don't share the information with you. TikTok knows who's going to buy and how much they're going to buy with the TikTok shop, but they don't share that information with you on purpose. They don't share who's clicked on your links and bought and purchased before. Obviously, they do that on purpose. But if you have your own products and services, you can figure out who's clicked, the click-through rate. You can improve all of those things and potentially make more money. And so it's really important to have that paradigm shift. Start thinking about yourself as more than just a content creator. I just make videos. Think of yourself as a business owner that is in the business of collecting valuable data and information. Because that's when you'll be most successful. That's when you will be most successful. Anyway, so when it comes to content creation, really simple. Identify pain points, goals, dreams, desires, and things that they're thinking but afraid to say out loud. So make a couple of those videos per day, and then make sure that you're responding to people when they comment. And before you know it, you'll start having people that will, they'll engage, they'll become followers, and then eventually they'll start buying stuff from you. The other thing I think a lot of people should do, especially with social media, is be a little bit more adversarial or confrontational. Because on this platform, for good or bad. This platform loves drama. And if you can be agitate just a little bit, it gets people to hang around. It invokes an emotion. In general, what you want to do is you want to be invoking emotions. You want to be successful, you've got to trigger people. You've got to invoke an emotion. You've got to want them to run away from pain. You've got to illustrate that pain. You've got to clearly state what that pain is, why they're going through it, and how you're in the best position to help them with it, help solve that pain. One thing that I often hear and see is people don't want to sell stuff because they don't want to be scammy. They don't want to appear scammy. Or they don't want to sound like a used car salesman. But good marketing is simply making people aware of the solution you have for their problem. That's what good marketing is. It's not buy my stuff. It's making your audience, your customer, aware that you've got something that they need. And in addition, you shouldn't feel bad about selling stuff if you truly believe that the solution that you've created is the best solution for them and will genuinely help them. Oftentimes, what people do is they'll just start creating stuff that they maybe don't believe in, that they don't trust themselves, because usually they've never gone through it themselves. But don't feel bad about selling stuff if you truly believe that that thing that you've created is going to help them. If it's not going to help them, don't sell that thing, because you're doing yourself a disservice, you're doing them a disservice. Really important. Really, really important. If you guys have any questions, definitely throw them out there. Be happy to get them answered. I think tomorrow I'm gonna play The Division. I haven't played that in a couple weeks, so I might start playing that again. The other thing, what's really cool, when you identify a group of people that you want to help, there's so many ways that you can find content ideas. For example, you identify a group of people, and usually what's happening is they're going to the search bar and they're typing in keywords. How to do this, where, who, what, when, where, why, how. For example, how to lose 20 pounds. What you can do is you can go to Google. And you can type in how to lose 20 pounds, for example. And then scroll down to a section called People Also Ask. And those are additional questions that your target audience is asking. And you can create videos based on those questions. In addition, what you can do is you can take one video idea and you can make it into like 10 different videos. All you have to do is change the hook, change the front end of your video, and you can take one idea and turn it into 5 or 10 different videos. For example, one hook is simply asking a question. One hook can be a statistic. So like 75% of people are frustrated when getting engaged because they don't feel like they have enough time, something like that. So you've got a question hook, you've got a hook where you can challenge the common narrative or common thought. Most gurus tell you that this, but in reality, they're wrong, and here's why. But make sure that when you're doing this type of stuff that you truly believe what you're saying. Don't just say it because you think it sounds good. Be ready to stand on whatever it is that you're saying. Defend it, right? I wonder what time is it? But one really simple thing that you can do so that you don't get burnt out is take one idea about the target audience and change the front end of it. Change uh, the hook is what it's called. When creating content, and maybe you've heard this before. When creating content, there's a thing called hook, story, and offer. Hook, story, call to action. The hook is what you're doing to reel in your target audience. What you're doing, it's something that you're doing to try and get them to stay and watch more of the video. The story is the thing that pays off the hook. So like if you say, here are 3 tips to lose weight, the story are the 3 tips. And then the call to action is to invite them to take the next step. The next step can be follow me for more. It could be if you want to have the perfect wedding of your dreams, then do this. You can also do an if then statement. You can do an if then statement for a hook as well. If you're over the age of 35 and this is your first time getting married, then here are 3 tips to make sure that you have the perfect wedding. That's a hook. And then the call to action is like, hey, if you're still frustrated or if you're still struggling to plan the perfect wedding, then check out the link in bio. If then statements. If then statements are really easy. That's why I like doing them. They're easy to fall back on because everyone can think of an if then statement. Or you can do if then else. If you are over the age of 35 and this is your first time getting married, then here are 3 tips to make sure you have the perfect wedding, or else half the wedding party is going to be missing. If then else. Right? Really simple. Simple but powerful. When it comes to starting an online business and content creation, all of this stuff is really, really simple. It's not easy, but it is really, really simple. And it becomes simpler the more you do it. The more practice you have with creating content and coming up with hook ideas and talking to your target audience, the easier it becomes, the simpler it becomes. But a lot of this comes from consistency. You've got to do this every single day. You've got to show up every single day when you don't want to, when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when it feels like nothing is working. You still have to show up and hone your skills. I truly believe that content creation, making money online, is a lot like playing a sport. And I didn't want to do that. People that play sports understand that you've got to put in a bunch of work up front with little to no. Why am I blurry now? You got to put in a bunch of work up front with little to no result in the beginning. But over time, as you continue to hone your skills, you're going to see faster and better results, right? It's like shooting a jump shot. When your favorite basketball player first shot a jump shot, it looked terrible. It was horrible. It wasn't even close. At 6 years old, it probably didn't even hit the rim, or it went over the hoop, whatever. But as you continue shooting the jump shot, you continue to hone your skills and get better at it. I think starting an online business is a lot like playing a sport. And ultimately, I think the people that usually have the most success are the ones that played sports, high school, college, and even professionally, because they understand that you got to put in a bunch of work up front that nobody's going to see and will yield very little results. But as you continue to work and develop your skills, you can put in less work and see more results. Now, you don't have to have played a sport before, but I think the analogy is spot on, where the most successful people, they worked in the dark, or they worked when nobody was watching. They were able to implement when nobody was watching. And they were able to sacrifice for the reward that came at the end. Like I always tell my son that the game is the reward for the practice that you put in. Most people will just want to play the game, and then they're frustrated when they don't play well. But the game is the reward for the practice that you put in. If you put in a bunch of practice If you work hard during practice, the games should be easier. The games should be simpler. If you want confidence in the ability to make a jump shot, shoot 100 jump shots every day. Make 100 jump shots every day when nobody's watching. But at the end of the day, like I said, the game is the reward for the practice that you put in. If you don't practice, you can't expect to perform well during the game, or you can't expect to win. And you can't. And I told my son this before. Don't get upset about losing if you're not going to put in the practice during the week. If you're not going to put in the time during the week, don't get upset, because you had the opportunity to put in the work the entire week. You had the opportunity to get better every single day, but you chose to do something else. You chose to play video games. You chose to watch TV. Don't get upset because the game didn't go how you wanted it. Go back and practice. You want a different outcome, put in more time when nobody is watching. You want success, especially when it comes to content creation. You want success when it comes to content creation. Learn how to create content. Make a bunch of content. Be okay with being bad at making content. But when you are bad at making content, commit to improving, commit to getting better, commit to developing the skill. Look and see what's working for other people. Don't copy, model, but then add in your own flair. I think that's the most important thing. I'm playing on easy mode. Part of the reason why I'm playing on easy mode is so that I can talk and play at the same time. I guarantee you, if I played any more difficult, I would be getting blown out, because it's hard to talk and play at the same time. At least for me, especially live when you're looking at. I'm looking at two different screens, trying to answer questions. So I just kind of play on easy mode. Take it easy. Rookie mode. Trust me, I don't play competitively. I don't play online. I do this because I like the game and I like the recruiting. And I can talk to you while playing video games. Let's see. But like I was saying, the games are the reward for the result, for the practice that you put in. If you want better outcomes, develop your skills, implement your skills. And that's another thing that I see a lot of people make the mistake with. They go out there and they try and learn, but it's all about implementation. You learn something and then apply it. Learn how to make a YouTube video and then apply it by making a video. It doesn't have to be you lost a lot. What does that mean? You lost a lot of yeah, I lost a lot of weight. Yeah. I lost about almost 80 pounds. Yeah, I lost almost 80 pounds. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, apply what you're learning. Really important. Yes, it is rookie difficulty. I've said that multiple times. I'm playing on rookie. I'm playing on easy mode. Do you maintain your... I don't even know what that says. What does that say? I can't see it. Yeah, I'm playing on rookie. I make no bones about it. There are people out there that play on Heisman. There are people out there that play on all sorts of levels. I play on rookie. Doesn't bother me one bit. Because at the end of the day, it's about having fun and enjoying it. And I enjoy the game on rookie. I enjoy the recruiting aspect of it. I can't see that. What does that say? Do you maintain your homeostasis? I'm not sure. What do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean there. Anyway, what time is it? We are going to be live for another about 4 minutes. So essentially, when this game is over, I like to go live for about an hour. If I go live longer than that, I tend to just kind of repeat myself, and you know, it's not a great experience. So what we'll do is we'll go live for about another 4 minutes on TikTok, and then looks like another 5 minutes on the other platforms. So if you've got questions, definitely throw them out there. Be happy to get them answered for you. Anyway, starting an online business, making money online is something that literally anybody can do. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a genius. It's something anybody can do. It's all skill based, really. You've got to be committed to learning and developing and applying your skills. The hardest part about starting an online business is the mindset associated with it. If you don't have the proper mindset, you're going to fail. If you think that this is just going to work overnight, you're going to fail. If you think that you don't have to learn any skills, you're going to fail. If you are unwilling to fail, you're going to fail. And that's really important to understand too. If you're unwilling to fail, then it's not going to work for you, because a lot of this is failing. Creating content to attract people to you, learning what works and what doesn't work, and being consistent, a lot of that is dealing and accepting failure and improving. But the hardest part when it comes to making money online, starting an online business, is the mindset involved with it. If you can learn how to be consistent and persistent, you can be successful, because everything else is just skills. If you don't know how to be consistent and persistent, and what I mean by persistent is like finding answers on your own, finding ways around the roadblock or hurdle, your body's internal environment to maintain equilibrium, like the metabolic. I don't know that anyone's ever referred to homeostasis outside the context of talking about plants in general. Or at least I've never heard people talk about it in that kind of context outside of plant talk. Anyway, we got about 2 minutes. 2 minutes left. What was I saying? Yeah, all of this stuff can be learned and developed, and or hired out. You can learn all this stuff for free, or you can hire somebody to teach you how to do it. Ooh. What do we got here for a time? It's 2:00. All right. So with that being said, we got another 30 seconds left. If you guys have questions, definitely throw them out there. I'd be happy to get them answered for you. I normally attempt to go live every single day at 1 p.m. Chicago time, Central Standard Time, from 1 to about 2. Like I said, I ideally I don't want to go longer than an hour, but yeah, I think this is a good place to stop because I've kind of repeated myself a few different times. All right, guys, you guys have a great day. Take care, and we will see you soon.